hope you're all having a fantastic Tuesday. We're live with the late edition of this week's Title Tuesday. I'm your host, GM Benjamin Bach, and I definitely look forward to hosting this one. We see here some of the top players participating. We have Hikaru Nakamura, Danya Narditsky, and Draken, Alexis Arana, Big Fish, also known as Vladimir Fedoseev, Dubov, Jeffrey Zhang, Yesipenko, Fabiana Caruana. So lots and lots of awesome players. Bornik. And yeah, this one is gonna be a lot of fun. Will Hikaru get another Title Tuesday championship, or will it go to someone else? We will find out shortly. But once again, I hope you're all doing well. And yeah, I think this morning did not go Hikaru's way. If I'm not mistaken, Nodir back at the serve won Title Tuesday. So we'll see how Hikaru will do this time around. But like I said, many other awesome players to look out for. So yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun. Wait, give me one. Wait 1 second. Alright, there we go. The lighting was a bit off. Okay, anyway. So yeah, first game is gonna start very, very soon. So let's see what is gonna happen. But yeah, if you guys have any suggestions as to who to follow, let me know in the chat, and I'll try to follow their game. And 10 seconds to start. Are we ready for another Title Tuesday? Here we go. 4, 3. Okay. And we should be off. Okay, so actually last minute, Sip Elephant, Artemiev also entered the tournament. So let's follow his game. He's rated 3101, definitely one of the favorites in this tournament, and he opens up with a ready. Now, don't worry, guys, we might be looking out at Hikaru's game later on. So we see this trade on d5. Now, white very often follows up with someone like d3, sometimes e4. Queen b3 can also be an annoying move. So bishop b7 is played. Queen b3 is usually met with queen to b6. And then white usually steps the queen back, tries to prepare to move e4. So let's see what black will do here. I think any other queen moves looks kind of awkward. You don't want to move this b pawn. Then you weaken your queen side. So queen b6 very natural. And queen c2 played by Artemiev. Short castles are all very, very natural. We'll pull up Fabio later. h3, bishop to h5, knight to c3. All very natural. Now black is going to develop this knight at d7. Okay, so let's see what white could at any moment play g4, bishop g6. And knight h4, go after the bishop pair. But I really like this move e4 as well. Getting more space in the center. Bishop g6, knight h4. Looks very natural here. So you can take the bishop and you get rid of this pin. So that later on eventually you can play the move e5. But yeah, looks like a very good opening here for Artemiev. Bishop e3. Now you cannot play bishop c5 due to knight a4. So maybe queen c7. But then you have to be careful of jumps like knight at d5 and knight b5. Of course, this bishop can be captured any moment. So let's see what Artemiev is going to do in the current position. All right, both players have around 2.5 minutes. Let's see what he's going to play here. f4, e5 also makes a lot of sense. He's taking a little long in his move here. Let's see what he is going to come up with. Of course, also bringing a rook into the game makes a lot of sense. Okay, and f4 has been played. Yeah, I like this move. Eventually, he wants to take this bishop and then go for the move e5. And this knight doesn't really have anywhere good to go. I mean, it can go to h5, but it could get trapped there. So let's see what black will do. Maybe bishop c5, trade off some pieces, get rid of the pressure. Is what he should go for. But let's find out. Right, he goes knight h5 right away. Okay, so he's hitting this pawn. And his idea is that if white goes g4, then this knight is hanging. But, I mean, let's say white takes on g6. You're going to have to recapture, and then g4, you'll have to move back. e5 looks pretty much crushing for white, I would say. So, let's see. To me, knight takes g6 looks very natural, because you don't want black to take your knight. Okay, so takes, pawn takes g6, maybe g4. I mean, knight g3, rook f3, I think the knight on g3 is simply going to get trapped. And if you go back to f6, then e5 looks very, very good for white. So let's see what Artemiev has in mind here. Move like knight d5 also comes to mind, hitting the queen and the bishop, but there's still queen to d6. g4 played. Okay, knight f6 looks like the only move. Me knight g3, rook f3. The knight is probably going to get trapped. So let's see what his opponent, Flamps, is going to do. Knight's on attack. Okay, so he has to make a decision. I mean, knight g3, rook f3. Okay, knight f6 played. e5, very natural. I guess knight e8. Knight h7 looks more passive. At least here the knight has a bit more of a future. To queen ever moves away, the knight can swing back this way. So let's see what Artemiev will do here. Maybe move like rook 81. Or I also like the move knight e4. Bring the knight closer to the king side and you stop black from going bishop c5 and trading off some pieces. So let's see what he has in mind. But either way, it should be a very pleasant position for white. But he's being a little too slow. It's getting down to a minute. Black still has 1 minute and 30 seconds on the clock. Knight b6 played. All right, so black wants to go knight e5, hit this bishop over here, and this pawn over here. So I mean, maybe rook d1, knight d5, bishop c1 is what he's looking at. Keeping the bishop on the board. Knight d5, bishop c1, all very natural. Yeah. Queen b6 check. Okay, I guess now king h1 or king h2 should be the way to go. But black is slowly but surely activating his piece. Now queen f2 has been played. If black could somehow play the move bishop c5, that would be winning the queen. However, the knight is covering that square. So let's see what Flamps is going to do. I like Artemiev's position, but the time is still a little bit of an issue. He's down to 45 seconds now, and black still over a minute. All right, knight ec7 played. Good move, bring the knight into the game. Trades on b6 and goes f5. But now e5 could become loose. Yeah, rook fe8, good move. How are you gonna defend the pawn on e5 as soon as the bishop moves out of the way? And Artemiev getting down to 30 seconds. I don't really see a good way here. I mean, maybe a rook f6 played. Okay, hitting the bishop. Bishop f8. Okay, he's hitting the pawn. Takes. But this allows knight to d6. Hitting this rook and this pawn on f7 and the pawn on b7. That's why knights are so strong on the 6th rank. Often people call them octopuses. But let's see what black will do here. I mean, he's going to have to move the rook. Rook e7, bishop g5. This does not look good. f6 take. Now, I think this should be winning for Artemiev. You cannot defend the rook properly, so black is probably just losing an exchange here. I mean, and then still all the same problems remain. So let's see what Flamps is going to do. Looks like a very, very tough position. Rook d7 played, guarding the rook. I guess just take now, and then maybe take the pawn on b7. You can play knight f5, and then black takes here, so it's not over just yet. 20 seconds for Artemiev. What he's going to do. Black is 40 seconds still on the clock. All right. Lots of options. Maybe taking this pawn over here. Knight f5 also an option. Rook d1 protecting the pawn on e5 also makes a lot of sense. What happens if black takes? Yeah, octopus is an English word, right? Okay, so he takes an e5. Take, maybe take here. Black can still take this pawn over here, or bishop d4 check. No, I said octopus. Very, very funny. Knight at d8, hitting the pawn on b7. This looks very good for white, but still not over 10 seconds. 25 for black. What is black going to do? You cannot defend the pawn on b7. Maybe bishop d4. King h1, good move. Maybe knight e3, try to go for some tricks, hitting the rook. F4, he hits the bishop over here. Okay, bishop e5, rook e4, hitting the bishop and the knight. Wait, how is black not losing here? Okay, you can take the bishop over here. Bishop f6 also a move, but bishop f6 has just been played. If you take the knight, black takes this knight, so he takes on b7. Right, okay, trade should favor white. Simplifying the position. Knight at d6, good move. Knight at d5, okay. King f3, bishop d4, g4 check, good move. King f8, knight f5, hitting the bishop over here. Bishop f6, start pushing the h-pawn any moment now. Okay, I would recommend not trading the knights. Makes white's life a lot easier. So knight f5, there white goes, he trades off the knights. And this should be an easy technical win. King g6, king e4, c4, rook b5. Yeah, and now black is lost. Bishop d8, king d4 wins, and now take and rook c6, and that's GG. So Artemiev is going to win the first game. Black's having a tough time finding the resign button, but there it is. So yeah, Artemiev wins his first game. Let's see what is happening in the other game. So we have Alexander Bornik, also always one of the favorites, but well, I was gonna say that this was not gonna be an easy endgame to win, but why just blunder mate and 1? That's not a good idea. Anyway, many more games. We have round Malcumian. So he has a drawn endgame here with rook and 2 pawns versus rook and 1 pawn. There should be a draw. However, you know, with little time on the clock, it's never that easy. So he goes rook to d6, maybe brings the king around to block on the 5th rank, and then eventually f4. So this is not that easy. Rook d2 maybe, or rook. Okay, rook e5, king up. Okay, but now white starts giving a lot of checks over here. Rook e6 play to try to block. Rook f6. Okay, rook e8, good move. And yeah, black cannot make any progress here. That's probably the problem here. He goes rook h6, maybe wants to go f3, but f3 you just go king back, don't go king up, of course. Rook e6, okay, he's trying to swing the king around. King of, okay. Okay, king of 4, just slowly push up the board. This should be a draw, but not that easy, I would say. Maybe check and rook f1, but rook a2 probably still holds. Maybe you can also give a check from the back. Let's see, rook h8, check there. Oh, you can take on g4, take on g4. But this is also fine. Okay, check, king up, king here, rook g1, king of 4. It's got to be a draw. Because here you just sit. You just sit. Because as soon as... Oh, king e2, king e2. King e2, king of 1, king of 1, king of 1. King of 1, and rook g1. That was apparently not the move, but now g3. Black is crashing through. Rook e1, it's game over. Or king h3, that's also fine. Take, I guess. gf. gf wins, you protect the rook. And if check, you hide the king. King g2, king of 1. And yeah, that's gonna be all she wrote. So, okay, of course not over yet, but takes king g... Okay, king g1 and f1 queen. And that is gonna be all she wrote. I mean, I'm pretty sure Malcumian knows how to win king and rook versus king. But his opponent is letting him demonstrate it. Okay, so king f7, rook f5, rook h5. And there we go. So, by the way, is this young Magnus? Wait, I think this guy's profile picture is young Magnus. Anyway, so Malcumian also wins his first game. Let's see, and that wraps up round number 1. So let's have a look. All right, most of the favorites did indeed win their first game. We're off to round number 2. Let's have a look at our boy Danya Nerditsky. So Danya is playing the Joe Bava London with the move knight c3 on move 2. To prepare the move e4, black generally plays the move d5 and white follows up with the move bishop f4. But in this game, black went c5, d5, d6. So here we get some sort of old Benoni defense. White does not have the pawn on c4, but sometimes that is in white's favor because the knight can come to d2 and c4. But I don't like what Danya did here because he allowed the move b5. I think black should have played it and he had a good position. But black castled, and now a4, good move, stopping the move b5. And black here is really cramped for space. So bishop h2, guess he wants to go rook e2 and e4. Looks really, really pleasant for white. All right, rook e1 has just been played. Okay, so Danya is really preparing to move e5 here. Let's see what black will do. I mean, knight e5 is an option, but it doesn't look that great. Go c4, bishop back. E5 is still very much on the cards here for white. Let's see what black will play here. Queen c5 to prepare to move b5 makes sense. Also, if e5 ever happens, then you're not in this diagonal of the bishop. So let's see. I mean, knight c5, e5 looks really good for white. Actually, knight c5 also hangs this pawn in the future. And if black can get in this move, that would be good. Okay, so rook d8 played. Perhaps something like knight d2, hitting this pawn over here, which now is very vulnerable. Daniel going queen to e2. Still very difficult to protect this pawn here. I mean, knight d2 is coming as well. I mean, yeah, rook c8, knight d2. Does not look good for black. Okay, knight d2 now. Rook 81 by Daniel. Okay, so maybe he wants to go rook d4, hit the pawn this way. or maybe still knight to d2. Okay, so b5 played by black. But the question is this going to work out? White can take and take. Black will go queen to b6, hitting the knight. And if the knight moves, the pawn on b2 hangs. But, I mean, this pawn on c4 is also always still weak. So Daniel takes, queen to b6. Knight b to d4. Aha, so if black takes on b2, there's the move rook b1, hitting the queen, and you collect the bishop on b7. So you cannot do that. Knight at c5 played, hitting the pawn on e4. e5, hitting the knight. But that does hang this pawn over here. But if black takes, then we take the pawn on d6, and if black recaptures, the rook will be hanging. So take takes. All of Danya's pieces are really active here, and it feels like this should work out in his favor. Bishop takes d5, knight takes c4, take. Okay, so black can maybe try to do a discovery with this knight, but the question is where? Queen takes b2. All right, does white have a trick here? Wait, maybe you have rook b1, queen a3, rook a1, queen b2, rook b1, and the queen should just be trapped there. So let's see what black will do here to cook up some tactics. But yeah, queen a3, rook a1, queen b2, rook b1. Looks winning for white. So let's see what charge Max is going to come up with here. Queen a3 played, rook a1. Yeah, and queen b2, rook eb1. The queen is simply trapped. There's nothing black can do. Alright, so let's see. Yeah, it's looking tough. I don't think black has a move here, because the queen is always protected by the bishop. So if you move the knight, you don't really have a discovery. I mean, I just take, and if black takes, we recapture and we're up a rook. So let's see, Danya also still has 2 minutes on the clock, black getting below a minute. So everything is looking really, really good for Danya and Erditsky. Queen to b2 played. Okay, rook eb1. Yeah, good move. Alright, so let's see what black will do. Maybe move the knight somewhere, but still it feels like you're just going to lose material. He takes an a1. Okay, but now you're just down a queen for a rook. Knight to e6 played, hitting the queen. And this knight on e4. Still some tactics. Because if this queen moves, maybe you take and move this knight out of the way. Hitting the queen and the rook. But there should be a way for white here. Knight c6, very nice move by Danya. If knight at d8, then knight takes c7. And you collect the rook on c8. So... And actually, knight takes c7 is a threat. If black allows it, the game is simply over. If it wasn't already. And black resigns. So Danya moves to 2 out of 2. Very nice game. So let's see what else we have. So we have Dmitry and Draken, who's playing here with the black pieces. He has the 2 bishops. However, white is a slightly better pawn structure. And queen e5. Very nice move by white. White is threatening queen h8 checkmate. You cannot take this bishop over here, because then you hang your queen. And also queen b8 is very much on the card. So... And Draken in a lot of trouble here. I mean, what is black gonna do? I mean, f6, you hang this. You're just lost. King f8. Okay, so bishop f6. Okay, so if takes, there's this. White is up a pawn and should be technically winning, but still a lot of work to be done there. Because the queen b8, king g7, take, and if you take on b7, then the knight on c3 hangs in the end. So he takes on f6 and now take on d4. White is up a pawn. This should be very good. Queen f5, hitting this pawn over here. Let's see what white is going to do. Maybe queen d2 to defend. Alright, knight e4 played. Which... Okay, e5. Alright. Queen e8, king g7, and knight d6. Aha, so can black take here? I mean, you hang the bishop, but there's also knight e8. You cannot go king here because of queen h4 checkmate. So Draken looks to be in a lot of trouble here. Maybe after knight e8 you can still go back, and there might not be a winning discovery right away. But very tough position here for Draken. Let's see where it's going to go with the queen. I guess takes on c2. But let's say white takes. Is there a draw? Queen takes c2 played. Okay, knight e8 looks very tempting. Okay, you got to go king f8 or king g8. King f8 played. You can still go back and then take the bishop later on. So knight d6, king g7. Is he going to take the bishop now? Time is taking down 7 seconds. Knight e8 check. It's not going to take the draw, right? Very disappointing, very disappointing. He had a big chance here to beat Draken. Yeah, he could have taken the bishop because black has some checks, but there doesn't seem to be a perpetual. But yeah, that game ends in a draw. Alright, so let's see what else we have. We have Dubov playing with a white piece. So here we have an opposite color bishop endgame. I would think white is winning, because white is up 2 pawns, can eventually create a second passer here. But also white is so active, like king e6, and it just feels like black cannot hold everything together. He goes bishop d3 instead. Is Ming playing? We'll try to figure that out later on. Bishop c4 check. So king e7, maybe king g6. So he goes to g7, now king e6. Your bishop will have to stay on this diagonal. As soon as you allow king d7, the game is over. So he goes a5, but here I would think h4, g4 looks really good for white. So bishop e8 has been played, king to d5, king f7. Now maybe here create a passer on this side of the board. King d4, good move. So I guess he wants to take this pawn over here. Okay, bishop c4 now, the king moves, and e6. King moves back, and... Okay, now king d5 wins, king d5 wins. King f6, e7, e7, GG. Alright, so Dubov also wins, moves to 2 out of 2. Let's see what other games we have. Alright, so we have Fabiano Caruana, who is completely winning because he's up a rook and a pawn. And now he's going for the ladder here with rook to h3. So Fabi also wins this game, moves to 2 out of 2 as well. Alright, so that is that. We still have a couple last games. We have Christopher Yu, who is winning here a king, rook and pawn endgame. So rook f5, very instructive move, because now if white checks, you go king back, and then rook d5. That's why you put the rook on the 5th rank, so you can block the checks. And there's simply nothing white can do to stop d1 queen. Let's go and check, we block. Peepo G, you guys, Peepo G, rook d5. Very nice technique by Christopher Yu, who is also going to move to 2 out of 2. I mean, he's getting a queen here. His opponent is having a tough time finding the resign button. Don't go king d3. King d3 now is good, and checkmate either here or here. And there we go. So Christopher Yu also moves to 2 out of 2. Let's see. And that wraps up round number 3. So round number 2, sorry. So if we have a quick look, we see that most of the favorites are still on a perfect score. Danya Naroditsky, Dubov, Fabiano Caruana, Bornik, Jospin as well, and Hikaru. So let's see what other games we have. Alright, so here we have the game between, what is his name? Bisho and Alexis Arana. So that one is definitely going to be a very fun one to keep an eye out on. And we have a knight off here with the move a4, queen c7 to stop bishop c4, bishop g5, and knight to d7. Now white very often goes knight to d2 to prepare the move bishop c4, h6 played, bishop h4. I think the main line continues with g5 and knight to c5. Once again, to discourage white from playing the move bishop to c4. So let's see. But Serrano is thinking here. I mean, knight c5 right away is not really an option, because white takes. Bishop e7. Okay, queen c6 has just been played. Maybe bishop c4, just develop the bishop. Looks very, very natural. Bishop c4 on the board. Alright. And g5 once again, bishop g3, maybe bishop e7. Alright, g5, bishop g3, knight c5, hitting the pawn on e4. Maybe just queen e2 or f3 to defend this pawn over here. All makes a lot of sense. Alright, so it goes queen e2, bishop e6. Putting pressure on this bishop. Maybe just castles. Yep, all makes a lot of sense. If black takes, you just recapture with the queen. And it should all be pretty pleasant for white. The only thing that is slightly problematic is this bishop on g3. It's a little stuck here, because these black pawns kind of limit its mobility. But on the other hand, black has some light square weaknesses. And white's plan seems pretty easy. I mean, maybe at some point f3. So this bishop can slide back to f2, rook after d1. And I'd say white has a pleasant advantage. So Serrano plays the move rook to c8. Let's see what Bisho will do here. Maybe he's cooking up some tactics along the c file. So perhaps b3 to strengthen this bishop over here makes sense. Alright, so goes rook e1, bishop e7. I guess at some point you do have to go b3. Would be nice to go knight f1 to e3, but once again for now that hangs a pawn. Well, it doesn't necessarily hang the pawn on e4, but it feels like black should have some tactic with bishop c4 and knight e4. Okay, so takes on e6 right away. I would say either capture makes sense, taking on the pawn. Now these squares are covered, so I don't really like what Bisho just did here. And perhaps the black king can sit safe on f7 or just short castle. But let's see what he's gonna do. So he goes knight f1. But now if the knight comes to e3, it's not really doing much, because this pawn here takes away all of the squares. h5, h3, to make sure that the bishop still has a square over here. Rook g8, nice move. He's preparing h4 and g4. And the problem is, if you go f3, then there might be queen b6, threatening a discovery, and this pawn over here. So let's see what Bisho will do. Does not look easy. Does not look easy. I mean, if you allow h4 and g4, it feels like black should get a big attack. So he goes bishop h2 right away. Bishop d8, bring the bishop around a5. Because then you hit the knight and you get a lot of pressure on the pawn on e4. Okay, but now g4 or trade here first looks really good for black. Just trade on c3 and g4. Just crash through on the king side. Looks really pleasant. g4 play right away. Okay, so this is what you want to do to a castle king. You want to open up files to try to attack. And yeah, takes doesn't really work, so knight e3 played. Takes on c3. White is captured, takes on f3. To the pawn, but now this king over here is going to feel the heat sooner or later. Black can actually take this pawn over here. I don't know how relevant it is. I don't think this works, because white can always block. Taking on the knight, same thing. So let's see what he's going to do. Both players around 1 minute and 20 seconds on the clock, and he does go for it. Knight takes c4 is on the board. Okay, so takes knight g2 is okay. Takes to the queen, but knight g2, huh? So he goes into this endgame where black is probably fine, but it felt like black should have a better option. Alright, let's see. Okay, so rook d1, hitting this pawn over here. King e7 would be a big mistake probably, because if rook takes d6, take with check, and you collect the rook, and then black's pawn structure is gone. Rook takes h3 can also be considered with knight at g4, but I would think that you like to keep your pawn structure intact. So maybe knight at d5 to cover everything. Alright, so let's see. I mean, rook d3, perhaps you just trade. So let's see what is going to happen here. King e7, oh, but now rook takes d6 was missed by both players. Rook d3 on the board, rook c4, hitting this pawn over here. Perhaps rook b3, hitting this pawn. Okay, good move. He hits the pawn. Okay, rook b8, yep, to guard. Alright, a4 is under attack. Now what is white going to do? Maybe g1, a7 makes sense. Alright, 55 seconds apiece. Knight e3, okay, but black takes here, c4, okay, the rook, I mean, can still come to a1, and knight e4 has just been played. Guess he wants to put the knight on c5, or maybe try to cook up some tricks here on the king side. Rook b2, check. Maybe check over here. I mean, there's still king f3, so nothing decisive just yet. But it feels very scary. Like, maybe knight c5 and then rook g8. It feels like there should be something here for Serrano. Let's see what he is going to come up with. Knight c5. Okay. Hitting the rook. Rook b6. I mean, rook g8. King f3. There might not be something decisive right away. Rook a3. Hitting the knight over here. Good move. If the knight moves back, then rook g8 looks really good. Because then you collect this pawn over here. You don't really want to go king f3 because you get into... Oh, king f3 has just been played. Might be a good move because the king will sit pretty safe on the e2 square. 24 seconds for Serrano. What is he going to come up with here? Check, king e2. Okay, he goes a5, tries to push this pawn down the board, a4. But I don't know, it feels a little slow, and it feels like white should have plenty of pieces to stop this pawn. Rook b5, rook b3. Okay, maybe he wants to take with the pawn. Makes sense, but maybe, okay. Oh, bishop takes e5, nice tactic. If black recaptures, then we take the knight over here, and black's pawn structure is kind of gone all of a sudden, and maybe white can push for the win here. Knight e4. But things seem to be spinning out of control here. The evil bar is now showing that white has the advantage. e5, this does allow a check, but bishop e2 has just been played. Knight c5, bishop a3. Okay, he goes for the same tactic again. If you take the bishop, then you hang your own knight. And only 9 seconds for Serrano. It feels like everything has collapsed here. Rook to a8. He wants to go rook a2 check, king f3. But still, white is going to take here, and then pawn on b3 is going to fall. Pawn on b7 is going to fall. 3 seconds goes b6, but isn't that just a free pawn? White takes it. Rook h2, hitting the pawn on h3. King g3 maybe, yeah. And if rook e2, you give a check over here. Okay, goes rook d2, but take, and take on b3. White's up a full piece. He takes on c5 and takes on b3. King d6. Alright, can Bisho convert this into a full point? King f3, king e5. Maybe activate the rook now. Rook b8, rook h2, hitting the pawn over here. I mean, still not over. Rook e8 check, king d4. Black's king is very, very active. King c3, and this pawn is under attack. I mean, king g3, rook e2, rook d5. Okay, but takes. King f2, okay, king b4. Very tough position to convert. Only with a couple seconds on the clock. Rook f5, h4. King e2, rook g3. Maybe bring the king around. Okay, rook h5, h3. He goes king up. King c3 looks annoying. The king. Okay, rook h5, king b4. King d3. Serrano still fighting. Rook f3. Okay, but now check maybe. King e4. But not easy. King b4 back. Okay, goes rook g5. Okay, rook g3. King e2. King b3. Oh, nice find. The rook has to move, and now you collect this pawn on h3. This should be a technical win for Bisho. Can he convert? King e4. Here comes the king. Now bring the rook around. I would say here and here. Rook h7. Rook d4 check. King f3. King c3. c7 hitting. Oh, but knight c2. Knight c2. Knight c2 was a fork. But this should be winning. Rook c5, and it's king d4, rook d5. Yeah. King d2, rook d5. And he should be on his way to win the game. Rook d8. Rook d5. Okay, rook e8. Serrano still fighting, but c5. Don't know how I feel about that move, because the pawn is a little loose. And c6, you can take. Check, block. This is a draw now. This is a draw. Rook and knight versus rook. But is Serrano going to defend with only a couple seconds on the clock? It is not going to be easy. Rook c8, the king is on the ring. That's not where you want the king. King, rook h5. This is the correct defensive setup. You want your rook on the other side of your king. Don't take the knight because that allows checkmate. Rook, king c5, check. Rook knight e5. Okay, there comes the king again. They will play this out until the 50 moves. Rook to h4. Knight e3, check. There, king c3. Okay, king a4, still fine. Okay, knight to c4. Yeah, king d4. Actually, this is a draw because you just keep checking. King a5, king d4, check. Serrano should know how to draw this, and now just stab the king out of the way. b4, king a3. I don't like the fact that he went to a3 because it feels a little bit closer to the corner, but it should be fine. Because knight d3, king a4, still should be a draw, and they're getting closer and closer to the 50 moves. King c4, okay, check, check, yeah. King up, check, check, pin, yep, check, king up. Yeah, and this game is probably going to end in a draw. What a roller coaster. But, of course, it's not over until it's over. Serrano, in the meantime, accumulating some time on the clock. He now has 11 seconds. And once again, with every move, he's coming closer to the 50 moves. After which, the game will automatically end in a draw. Okay, check. Check. Oh, you can take the knight. You can take the knight. You can take the knight, yeah. And block. Block, yeah. All right, so what a game, and it ends in a draw. So Bisho and Serrano both move to 2.5 points. Game could have really gone either way, but as we speak, round 4 is already on their way. So let's see what games we have. By the way, as we speak, we still have players on a perfect score, such as Alexenko, Razalov, Fabiano Caruana, Dubov, Jospin, Jordan van Forest. It's not Jordan Van Forest, as all of you guys always say. But with that being said, let's have a look at one of the games. Let's have a look at this one between Zhigalko and Big Fish, who are two of the regulars here in Title Tuesdays. Okay, so we have a bit of a modern defense. And Black can choose here. Is he going to go for some sort of hippo, or maybe put the knight on f6 to have a bit more pressure on the center? Black has extended his queenside a little bit. I don't like this trade because the pawn on b4 now always feels a little loose. Knight f6, perhaps just castles. He goes a5, a nice move. So he's cutting off the pawn on b4 from the chain, not allowing the move a5. And Black goes h5. So he wants to go h4, hit this knight over here, because then if the knight moves, then you lose the defense of the pawn on e4. And if you go h4 yourself, then you give Black this knight nice g4 square for his knight. So queen b3, but h4. Okay, knight g5, he's trying checkmate on 1, so maybe just castles. And then move the knight. That's his idea. Alright, e6. Okay, the knight has to move. Now, I don't think any of these sacrifices works for knight e2. Alright, so knight e2. I mean, if black castles, you have extended your pawn to h4, so maybe g3, rook to b8, you cannot take this pawn on b4, because that allows a discovery. So let's see what white is going to do. Maybe f3, strengthen the center. Perhaps later on you want to go knight f4 and sack something, you know, over here, which feels like it should work out in white's favor. Or just castles. Why not? You know, just play it solid. Zhigalko having 2.5 minutes on the clock. Big Fish, 2 minutes. So let's see what he is going to do. Alright. To b8. Gotta move here. Castles, I would say. Knight f4 all look very, very natural. But let's see what move he is going to come up with. But yeah, as we speak, let's have a quick look at the standings. Hikaru is also still on 3 out of 3. He has, for some reason, a worse tiebreak, so he's a little bit lower. But he is on a perfect score, just as Danya and Arditsky. As we said, Dubov, Fabian Caruana, Bornik, Jospem, Jorn van Vreest, Malcumian. So yeah, still lots to play for. And what is happening to Zhigalko? I mean, his connection seems to be doing fine, but he's taking over a minute here on this move, and he goes knight f4. So he makes his intentions very clear. He wants to go for some sort of sacrifice, but I don't really like the fact that he spent 1, if not 1.5 minutes on that move. Queen e7 played by Big Fish. He's protecting against a sacrifice, but maybe white can still go for a take and take here, hitting the queen and the rook on h8. So let's see. Another move that looks tempting is rook a4 and take the pawn on b4 this way. But as we speak, Zhigalko's position might be good, but look at the clock. He's down a minute, and Big Fish still has 1 minute and 55 seconds on the clock. You gotta go here. You gotta move. You gotta move. Okay, 50 seconds. This is not good by Sergey. Sergey's got to move here. Okay, so he castles. Maybe now e5. I mean, you hit the knight, you create tension in the center, and you just make sure that white cannot sack. I mean, if black castles, maybe we still sack on e6. Take here, hit the queen and the rook. So let's see what Big Fish is gonna do here. Of course, e5, maybe white takes. I don't know what is going on. 40 seconds for Zhigalko, 130 for Big Fish. He has that working for him. h3 probably will just be taken by one of the knights, probably this one. So you still protect the pawn on e4. Maybe knight g4 actually, hitting this bishop, and the knight on g5 also makes sense. So lots of options here. Big Fish getting down to 1 minute and 15 seconds on the clock. Let's see what he's going to come up with. The position is super complicated because only one pawn has been traded, still 30 pieces on the board. Let's see what he is going to do. Alright. You got to move, dude. Maybe castles. Okay, e5. And bishop c4 blitzed out by Zhigalko. He's sacrificing the knight on f4 to hit this pawn on f7. But you got to take. You got to take. There's no other option. If you castle, knight takes g6 is crushing. You cannot take. Rook f8. What? Bishop takes f7 and knight takes g6. Just game over. Take, knight takes g6. You hit the queen. The queen cannot move because then you hang your rook over here, which is just checkmate. So you're going to have to lose your queen. I mean, this just looks like it's game over. Also, on top of the fact that you're losing your queen, white should have a crushing attack here. And if you take an e4, we're just going to take here. You have to capture, then we take, and that should just be crushing. Can I take the bishop because you hang the rook on f7? So Big Fish down to 30 seconds, but this one's got to be over here. I mean, there's just no move. d5, he's sacrificing the queen. Okay, take now for Zhigalko. I mean, taking either pawn looks really good here. Maybe taking e5 to try to open up the center. But let's see what Zhigalko is going to do here. 20 seconds apiece, knight takes e5. I mean, if you take with the rook, okay, takes it with the knight, maybe f4, e5, looks really good, f4. Knight c4, I guess you have to try to complicate one way or another. So bishop c5, which looks quite nasty. e5, hitting the knight over here, knight g4. He's doing his best to complicate the position, but still, you're fighting against the queen, and your king is wide open. Bishop c5, hitting the rook, bishop f8, he's sacrificing even more material. Okay, will I take or queen d3? An excellent move, trying to go queen to g6. Once again, white is the queen and the attack. Black only has 2 pieces. There's just no way. Rook c8. Maybe just check. Check. King d8. But now I mean check. And you collect this knight over here. Take some b4. Also good. Rook c6. I mean queen g8. How are you going to defend this bishop over here? He takes and you take... Okay, queen f7. GG. Okay, everything is winning here. But okay, 10 seconds on the clock. Rook c1. Knight e3, I mean e6. Just push this pawn down the board. Or rook e1 also looks good. Yeah, rook to c7. You can even just give up your queen and take here, because you're just up so much material. Rook to c8, queen b4. d4 played by Big Fish. 3 seconds though, b3. Knight to d5. Okay, yeah, that's probably the practical decision. Because with only 4 seconds on the clock, it makes sense to simplify a little bit. Okay, that hangs a bishop. And that hangs a knight. And yeah, a big win for Zhigalko against Big Fish. So Zhigalko moves to 4 out of 4. Big Fish, tough loss for him. But of course, there's still plenty of games to come back. Okay, let's see. We have here... Let's have a look at... Well, I wanted to have a look at this game, but it's not too interesting anymore. Jordan moves to 3.5 out of 4. But we do have Alexander Bordnik, who is probably trying to defend this endgame, but queen f3, queen d4, good move, stopping queen f2. Still, okay, and yeah, it is gonna be a draw. King up, and yeah, another draw. Let's see if we still have any games going on. We have here Serrano, who's losing. Tough start for Serrano. He starts with 2.5 out of 4. He's gonna have to win the remaining games in order to have a chance of winning the late Title Tuesday. Or to give him any sort of chances for a prize. Oh, but we still have Pranav. Pranav should be winning here in this rook endgame. I mean, look at these pawns. They're just marching down the board. d3, king e3, f2, d2. This should be an easy win. f2 now. King e2. And that's just all she wrote. Yeah, promote. And this pawn is not going anywhere. So yeah, Pranav moves to 3 out of 4. Still has chances. But yeah, with all that being said and done, you guys, that does wrap up round number 4. So we are going to be taking a very short break. Do not go anywhere, you guys. There will be more action coming your way from the late edition of Title Tuesday. We'll see you guys after the break. everyone, and welcome to the late edition of this week's Tada Tuesday. I'm your host, Jim Benjamin Bach. So 4 rounds have already in the books. We see that some players are still on a perfect score, such as Alexenko, Dubov, Fabiano Caruana, Malcumian, forgot his name, Miguelito, Zhigalko, and of course Hikaru. Hikaru having the worst tiebreak for some reason, but yeah, he's still on a perfect score. But yeah, the games are going to be starting very, very soon. So I expect that these players will be facing off against each other. But either way, it's going to be a lot of fun. And we should be off. Yeah, and we should be off. All right, so let's have a look at the game between Fabiano Caruana and Miguelito. So we have e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and we have a reload pass. Okay, so knight f6. Berlin. So I'm curious what Fabiano wants to do, but he goes for the rook e1, Berlin, knight d6 take, bishop e7, bishop f1, knight takes c5, and castle is here the main move. So here d4 or knight c3 are the two main moves. With the move knight c3, white wants to go knight d5, and eventually try to get the bishop pair, knight e8, knight d5. But this line is generally quite dry, so knight e3, bishop e7, and here white has two moves. One move is the move c4, and white can also go knight f5 and still try to get the bishop pair. After c4, black generally goes knight to c7, okay, knight f5, bishop f6. Maybe he wants to go queen e2 and knight e7 to, once again, collect one of the bishops. But black is generally quite solid here. Bishop g5. I think the main move here is d4, but d3 has just been played by Fabiano. But, I mean, if black goes d5, we will probably see a trade here. Maybe can draw errors. Knight e7 check, then collect this bishop over here. But feels like black should be completely fine. I mean, this bishop here isn't too scary. With the knight coming to d6, it feels like black should be doing fine. So let's see what Fabiano will do here. I think Miguel cannot be too unhappy about the outcome of the opening. Alright, so d5 on the board. This knight is under attack and needs to be addressed somehow. I think you probably should take the bishop and go knight e7, but it feels like black should be doing completely fine there. So let's see what Fabiano will do. I mean, I'm a bit surprised by his opening choice. I would expect him to go for something, you know, that keeps more pieces on the board, because here the position is already very simplified. Already one pair of knights has been traded. And probably here the bishops will be traded as well, and then the knight for the bishops. After which both sides will have only one minor piece left. Queen f3 played. Okay, defending the knight also makes sense. Let's see what black is going to do here. So you can trade on c1. You can also trade on f5 first. But either way, black should be doing fine. I mean, let's say you trade on f5, then you trade on c1, and then maybe knight f6 followed by queen d6 looks very, very solid. So we see black trading on f5, trade on c1 now, knight f6. They're clearly listening to the commentator. And now queen d6 or queen b6 both look fine. So c4 by Fabi. He wants to open up the center a little bit. Queen b6, hitting this pawn on b2. So let's see what... okay, so b3, rook to e8. Alright, so let's see. So of course you can trade. But black should be doing fine there. And yeah, I would say in this position, I would maybe pick black, because it looks difficult to activate this bishop. Also, black is up half a minute on the clock. So g3 by Fabiano, maybe he wants to put the bishop on g2 or h3. Queen a5, nice move. Hitting the pawn on a2 and also the rook on a3. So Fabiano takes on d5, but this does give him an isolated pawn on d3, so not sure how I feel about this position. I mean, black also has the only open file on the board. And, okay, so he goes a3, stopping knight to b4. Maybe king f8, bring the king closer to the center. But once again, either way, black should be doing completely fine. g6, bishop g2, okay, rook e2, you trade and you activate the rook. So knight c7, nice move, knight b5, maybe rook d8. White has a ton of weaknesses over here. Black's pawns are perfectly solid, so Fabiano will have to do some work here to try to draw the game. Knight b5 allows d5, and white should be fine there. So rook d8, nice move. Okay, knight b5, wait, knight b5, that's winning a pawn. I mean, you hit this, after d5, I mean, you can take over here, but also knight c3. Yeah. And Fabiano's going to have to work here. I mean, he's going to be down a pawn. And down half a minute. Rook d3. Okay, just take the pawn on d5. Looks very good for black. Okay, b4. Maybe he wants to go b5. Trying to soften up this pawn on b6. So goes a6. Okay, a4 now. Nice move. Okay, so he wants to go b5. At least trade off some pawns. King of fate. Okay, b5. Take. But it feels here that Fabiano should have pretty good chances to draw. You can even consider giving up your bishop for the knight. But generally what you want to do when you're down material is trading off pawns. So king to e6, maybe just trade on d5, rook a7, rook d7, rook a8. Okay, rook c7, putting the rook behind the passed pawn, bishop to f3. Do not go c5 because rook d8, you lose your knight. Knight f6, nice move. He still wants to push this pawn off the board, bishop e2. c5, there's bishop c4 to block. It's not that easy. But still, 20 extra seconds for Miguel, and he has extra pawn. So, not what you would expect from this game. King g2, okay, c5 now. Okay, rook a6, he's hitting the knight, but the knight can just move to either g4 or e4. Goes knight e8. Okay, check, king up. Okay, goes king here. I mean, c4, knight d6 looks very solid for black. White has only 40 seconds. Rook a5, pinning the pawn by knight at d6, activating the knight. Let's see what white is going to do. King of 1, maybe king d4, king e6. Okay, but now white can bring the king up c4. There might be check, and maybe Fabiano will be able to draw this game. Let's see what's going to happen. Black getting below a minute. c4. Okay, check. You still move the king out of the way. King d2, c3, king c2 should be fine for white king c3. And yeah, now it feels like it should be a draw because bishop d5 is coming. This pawn is pretty weak, but of course, as soon as you take this pawn, there might be knight e4. Okay, bishop d5 check on the board. Guess king of 6. Okay, so do you take king d4? Has been played. Here rook c2 or rook b2. Rook a6 maybe? Yeah, king e7 only move. You gotta guard a pawn. Alright, so king e7 on the board. So let's see. Alright, so rook a7. Yeah, you gotta go king back. And yeah, king f6, rook a7, rook a6 just a draw. And if you go here, maybe rook d7. 19 seconds for Miguel. He's got to move here. King of 6, maybe rook d7. Things could get tricky. Wait, king. Wait, he's 11 seconds. You got to move. King d8. Fabiano might get ambitious here. King c5. Yeah, and he's going for the win, I feel. This knight is 8 seconds. 8 seconds. You got to move. 5, 4. Knight f5. Okay, so take. It's got to be a draw, but black is knight takes g3 would be a nice move. Rook f3, also fine. But still, it's a little tricky. Bishop e6, okay, take on... rook d7, right? It's a big blunder. You're going to lose a knight, and I think Fabiano's simply going to lose the game. Black has no time here, and look at this king. It's cut off. Okay, rook h7. Okay, you can take, but king d6 going for the checkmate now. Rook bishop d5. Rook f7, and there should be GG's. Rook g7, rook f4. Rook f4 only move. Rook f4, rook f4, rook f4, rook f4, rook f4! Rook f4. It's still a game. That is why you always gotta listen to the commentator. Anyway, Fabiano picks up a big surprising win. Big escape, whatever. But here we have Hikaru against Malcumian. Okay, so very interesting game. So black has this passer over here, but white has two passers here on the king side. They will be difficult to push forward, but something tells me that Hikaru is going to try and win this game. Okay, h4. Here comes the white h-pawn. Queen d5. Queen c3. But how do you push this pawn forward? Maybe queen d6. Okay, bishop d7. Good move. Okay, check and a3. Knight c2. Knight c2. a2, knight b4. You're going to lose the pawn. Uh-oh. Hikaru's in trouble here. He's going to... This doesn't... Oh, queen d6 in the end. Now, this would be a draw if this king would be over here, but the king on a5, white should be winning here. Can Malcumian convert? Queen d5, king h7. Okay, here comes the h-pawn. It feels like black does not have a perpetual. King h4, check still, king g5. Okay, king h4 now. G4 check. Queen f3, good move. Check, block. Queen f4, Hikaru in trouble here. He's trying to save the draw. Queen d, king, okay, push the pawn. Okay, push the other. Okay, queen g4. Aye. And that's going to be all she wrote. So Hikaru loses game number 5. Very, very tough loss for him. So he's not in the lead anymore. Let's see which players are. Because this does wrap up round number 5. And we see Alexenko, Fabiano Caruana, and Malcumian still on 5 out of 5. They're followed by a pack of players on 4, 4.5. Which includes Tari, and Zhigalko. But the next round is going to start... Oh no, wait, there's still a game going on. Still a game going on. Dropstone trying to win rook versus knight. And then to the draw. Okay, so that wraps up round number 5. Round number 6 is going to start any second now. And we are off. So let's have a look at the game between two of our leaders, Alexenko and Fabiano Caruana. Alright, and we are off. Alexenko is generally an e4 player, and there we have it, c5 by Fabiano. And Fabiano going for the Taimanov, yeah. Queen c7. Okay, so let's see what white is going to do here. Bishop e2, a6, castles, one of the main lines. Alright, knight f6, bishop e3. Black generally goes bishop e7, f4, d6. And this turns into what's called a Scheveningen. It's not Scheveningen. Queen e1. White going for this maneuver with the queen coming to g3. And black generally takes and goes b5, a3, bishop b7, king h1 is the main move here. Because I think if you go, yeah, king h1. Now what black generally does here is go rook a8, rook e8, and then go rook d7 and rook queen to d8. Okay, so this is all very standard, rook e8. White has some options here. Bishop f3 is a move. Bishop d3 is a move as well. So let's see what is going to happen here. Bishop d3, I had some games here way back in the day. Black proceeds with the move rook to d7. Okay, so he decides just to lose a tempo here, rook a1 and rook d1. So let's see, rook d7 by Fabiano, looks very natural. Bishop f3, a bit weird, like why would you not go rook d1 and then bishop f3? But maybe Alexenko argues that black doesn't have a good move here. Because what do? You can go bishop f8, that hangs a knight. Queen d8 might run into some e5 business. Bishop c6 as well, I don't know. So let's see what Fabiano is going to do here. I don't know, it's a good question. g6, there might be f5. So let's see what Fabiano is going to do. Okay, queen d8, but is there the move e5? Huh. Because take, knight d5. Queen is played by Alexenko. Alright. Bishop f8. Yeah, they're shuffling back and forth. Now Fabiano is ready to push with the move e5 in the center. So let's see what Alexenko is going to do here. I feel like if black gets an e5, he should be doing fine. So let's see what Alexenko is going to do. He could go queen g3 back to stop this move. But yeah. Alright, so Alexenko has 1 minute and 50 seconds on the clock. Goes rook e1. Okay, e5 now. e5 looks very natural for Fabiano, I think. Hitting the bishop. Yeah, e5 on the board. Bishop e6, maybe just like queen a8, putting more pressure here. And I'd say Fabiano should be having a fine game here. This trade, okay, so bishop e3 played. Maybe queen a8, trying to put pressure here. Okay, h6, also a very natural move. Making sure white doesn't have this. And black also always has a square for the king. Fabiano also up 30 seconds on the clock. So let's see what Alexenko is going to do here. I like Fabiano's position. Okay, so f5. Alright, so now the question is, can black generate pressure towards opponent e4? Maybe queen a8, preparing the move d5 potentially. I think it will be very difficult for white to get in g4, h4, g5. If he could, then his position would be great, but it doesn't seem realistic. So I think queen e8 here, because it doesn't seem like white has an easy defense of the pawn on e4. But let's see what Fabiano is going to do here. He's also getting down to 1 minute and 30 seconds on the clock. d5 right away. Okay, but now takes. This should be fine though for either side. Take. Bishop b6, queen a8. But then maybe white takes and you're in a bit of a pin. Although there might be e4 to break the pin. So let's see what is going to happen. I feel like if white trades, this might favor black. Because black's king is slightly safer. This pawn on f5 is a little weak. White has some targets potentially. Maybe the pawn on c2. Black is his pawn over here. And Alexenko also getting down to 50 seconds on the clock. What is he going to do here in this position? He takes on d5. Okay, now it takes for Fabiano. Queen f3. Maybe e4, hitting the queen. Making sure the rook is not under attack. E4 would look tempting, I would think. Pawn on f5 also becomes weak, so he takes on d1. Takes, queen c8, nice move, hitting this and f5. But queen e4 maybe, to defend both. Making sure black doesn't get e4. Queen e4 played. Alright, perhaps bishop c5, trading off those bishops. But I would say the game should be around even. White also controls the only open file on the board, f6. Okay, maybe h3, making sure the king always has a square. Yeah, h3 on the board. Alright, this one should be headed for a draw, I would think. Both sides have a queen, a rook, and a bishop. Maybe white can claim a small edge, because all of these pawns are fixed on the dark squares. Rook d8 played by Fabiano. But then again, these pawns are on the light square, so take. Maybe queen d3, okay, c3 played. Check and queen e2. Oh no, that does allow check, king up. Let's see. Bishop d6 now. If this queen ever moves, e4 will be annoying. And Fabiano also has more time. King h7 to make sure that white doesn't have a check here or here. h5 also makes sense. Fixing the pawns. Check. Okay, king up. And actually, wait. White might be in some sort of a5 plate, but white might end up in some sort of zugzwang after queen e1. Bishop c5 could then become a threat. 10 seconds for Alexenko. It goes bishop f1, maybe a4. a4 looks like a nice move for Fabiano, fixing the queen side over here. Bishop g3, bishop c5, threatening this. How do you defend? Bishop c5 looks very tempting now. Queen g1 will be a major threat. Well, if you still have bishop e1 or queen e1, it's not over just yet, but it feels very close now for Fabiano. Bishop c5 on the board. Queen g1 is a major threat now. Queen, okay. Check. Bishop g1. It's game over. You cannot defend the bishop. Yep. So Fabiano moves to 6 out of 6. Let's see if Ron Malcumian was able to keep up. Ron, in fact, lost his game. So Fabiano moves into the sole lead. We have Zhigalko playing here. If Zhigalko wins this game, he will move also within half a point of Fabiano Caruana. He's up a pawn here. Okay, but this is a draw. Just take. Yeah. This game is most likely going to end in a draw. Of course, Zhigalko is going to try. He has the extra pawn, but if white doesn't make any crazy blunders, this game should end in draw. Okay, so he's going to try to bring the king around, but white will always have a lot of checks from the side. Check. Rook b7 now maybe. Oh, actually you don't want to allow rook g5. That might be annoying. Maybe he's just going to bring his king around. Or like this, king e4. Check. Don't take the pawn. Don't take it. King back. King back. And I just put the rook auto, but you can just keep your king on h4. Yeah, this should be a draw. I don't see a way how black could ever win this game. But yeah, we'll see. Game is gonna most likely gonna end in a draw. Still a couple games going on besides this one. Okay, so bringing up the king now. Still some chances. But once again, it should be a draw. And at some point they're also closing in on the 50 move rule. Alright. King f6, only move to keep the game going. Check. Rook g6 should be a pretty clean draw, I think. Yeah. Alright. And this game is probably headed for a draw. Rook g, yeah. Oh, but no, it's a draw. You take and king h3. And that wraps up round number 6. Alright, so if we have a very quick look at the standings, we see that Fabiano Caruana is in a sole lead. The only player who's on 5.5 is Tari, so they will be facing off in round number 6. And here we go, Fabiano Caruana with the white pieces. Let's see what he's going to come up with. In the pack of 5 of players on 5, we have Dubov, we have Danya, we have Alexenko. Hikaru is also in there, but Hikaru still is a terrible tiebreak. So he's going to win like pretty much all of the games to have a chance. But as we speak, we are off and we have a Caruana. The advanced variation with knight f3 and bishop e2. So let's see, here black can go for c5. It's more of a direct approach, or just go like knight d7, knight e7, h6, shuffle around. Let's see what Tari has in mind here. Knight e7 on the board, c5, c3 by Fabiano, knight c6. All makes a lot of sense. Maybe knight d7, or just like maybe, okay, I guess maybe at some point you take a3. Fabiano wants to go for the move b4. b4 now makes a lot of sense. Wait, Siri almost went off. b4. Okay, so I kind of like Arian's position. Maybe the rook coming to c8. Perhaps b5, knight b6 to c4. All looks pretty pleasant. And black has a pretty solid center. Oh, wait. Maybe it's a little trick. Wait. Take here. Rook c1. It's still in the position. I think c5 and d4 could be really good. b5 also a nice move. Knight b6 to c4 looks really good now. But okay, why we'll get knight c5 as well. So let's see what Arian is going to come up with here. a5. But that does hang this. So let's see. I mean, he hangs upon a b5. Is Fabiano going to take it? Okay, of course black does take here. So I would think it's probably going to be equal in the end. But let's see what Fabiano is going to come up with. He takes on b5. Okay, so takes on b4. Take, and I guess you take with the knight. If you take with the bishop, there might be tactics with knight e2, hitting this and this. So I guess you take with the knight, and the game should be around even. But let's see what is going to happen. Fabiano getting down to 2 minutes. Okay, knight e2 right away. So he's hitting this knight over here and this pawn over here. But perhaps black can just go knight e7, hitting this, and you still hit this. So let's see what Arian is going to do here. Something like queen b6 also makes sense, hitting this, defending the knight. So let's see, both players around 2 minutes. Let's see what he's going to come up with. Of course, knight e7, white could take and take on b4, but it isn't the prettiest pawn. Also, this bishop is pretty active, so I feel like black should be doing fine there. So let's see what Arian is going to come up with. Okay, so goes queen b6. Takes. Okay, so Fabiano does take the pawn. But I feel like here black should be doing completely fine after, let's say, queen a4 or queen b5. Let's see which one Arian is going to choose. Queen a4, hitting this. And it doesn't seem like there's an easy way for Fabi to defend the pawn. I mean, you can move the queen because then you hang your knight over here. Bishop c1 is very sag. Knight c5, but take, and take looks really good for Arian. Because his pawn on c5 is weak. He has the 2 bishops. Take it. You defend the queen. Take it. Yeah, it takes. Okay, Fabi has to recapture. Takes on a3. Knight's under attack. Pawn on c5 is weak. Let's see what Fabi is going to do here. I mean, queen d4 does defend everything for the moment. But once again, black's position is so solid. And this bishop is pretty nice over here. Controls a lot of squares. So Fabi in some trouble here. I mean, knight c6, you just lose a pawn. Queen d2 played. Maybe rook to c8, hitting this pawn over here. But there's still rook c1, and you're hanging on. Okay, rook c1 played. Okay, h6, nice move by Aryan, making sure he always has this square for the king. You could go king h7 right now. Make sure there's never any checks on the back rank. And just pass white the move, you know? I mean, it doesn't seem like white is a very easy and obvious move to make. Maybe king h2 can be played, bishop d8. Aha, so he wants to go bishop a5. Put pressure here. Maybe now knight c2 by Fabiano, rerouting the knight at d4 square. But let's see. Either way, Aryan should be better, but can he put real pressure here on Fabiano? That's of course always the big question. Fabiano thinking here. Okay, knight c2 looks natural. So gonna go for it. But okay, of course black can take, but I don't know if that's something you should be too worried about. And he goes queen to d4, also makes sense. So I wonder what his ideas after bishop to a5. Maybe knight back anyway. We'll see. Alright, so Aryan is thinking in the current position. What is he gonna do here? Goes bishop g5, but I mean he's giving up the bishop pair. Now white gets some control over the dark squares, and this pawn, if anything, is a weakness. So let's see what Fabiano will do. I mean, maybe pushing this pawn. Okay, rook a1, queen b3, only move. Only move, c6 perhaps. Start pushing this pawn down the board. I mean, if white gets like rook a7 and c7, this could become very, very dangerous for Aryan. So don't like this move, bishop g5 at all. Alright. Malcumian beat Hikaru. Okay, so queen c4 maybe, but okay, take, rook c1, bishop d3. Bishop d3, maybe just f3. Rook a5 by Fabiano. He wants to go rook to c5. Keep a king f8, I guess. Bring the king a bit closer to the action. c5, there might still be here, but it looks very tough. 25 seconds for Aryan. Bishop e4 on the board. Okay, rook c5. Bishop d5, but f3. Bring the king up the board. This might be lost. f3 by Fabiano. Like king f2. King e3. Because this bishop cannot go anywhere. And if white can take this pawn with the king, white is just winning. Because he has the rook behind the passed pawn. He picks up this pawn over here. The pawn c4 should then also drop off. So Aryan down to 15 seconds. Rook c8, rook d8 on the board. Okay, c7, rook c8. Take. King up. This should be winning for Fabiano. Take the king d4. King, okay, take. Take with the king. Take with the king. And if you take, you're training into a lost king and pawn game. It should be an easy win for Fabiano. Take, yeah, but I mean, you're just down a pawn here. There's no way. But how is Fabiano going to convert? g3. Okay, he should be winning this, but still some work to be done. f4. Take. Wait, how does this win? Wait. King e4, king e6. h4. f6. f6. Well, maybe just move the king. Yeah, this is winning for white. Yeah. Take, then your king moves back and you just slowly but surely move up the board. So, Fabiano moves to 7 out of 7. It was not an easy game, but at the end he does get the better of Tari. Let's see what other games are still in progress. So we have Danya Dubov against Gadakomsky. A very interesting game where black has a bunch of pawns and 2 knights, but everything is defended. And in the end, Dubov does win the game and he moves to 6 out of 7. Only a point behind Fabiano. As we speak, we also have Yesipenko against Korchmar. But Yesipenko's lost here. It's lost. It's just completely over. Black, okay, just push the H-pawn down the board. So Yesipenko is gonna lose. And that means that Vasily Korchmar is going to move to 6 out of 7, only a point behind Fabiano Caruana. Let's see what other games we have. Do we still have any games? Yes, we do. But this one is going to end any second now. So we're going to have a very quick look at the standings. So we see that Fabiano Caruana is in the lead with a perfect 7 out of 7. Then we have Dubov, Malcumian, Castor, Konrad Holt, Korchmar, and Hikaru, and Madlikov on 6 out of 7. Hikaru is still having a bad tiebreak, but he's only a point behind Fabiano. So they will probably face off in round number 8, I think. But we're going to find out very, very soon. These two guys are still fighting out this queen endgame, which white is going to win. Queen g7 is checkmate. And there we go. That wraps up round number 7. Okay, so round number 8 is going to start any second now. And I do expect Fabiano against Hikaru. It's a must-win game for Hikaru if he wants to win the tournament. So let's see how he is going to try. Pause champ. Pause champ. Pause champ. And we are off. So Hikaru with the white pieces against Fabiano. So it starts off as a queen's gambit decline with bishop e4. This is the rug goes in. Knight 6 the only move. And e3. So let's see. So queen c2. I had this actually in the recent World Cup against Sam Savian. Bishop d2. This is all Tari. So bishop f8 is the main move here. And then white has some options. a3 is a move. But let's see. Fabiano seems to be taking it back here. Bishop f8 is the main move. b6 played by Fabiano. Now white has some options. a3 makes some sense. Hikaru takes on d5. Bishop d3. Okay, but now maybe bishop g4 for black. Because, okay, bishop f8 played instead, threatening knight at b4, which is why a3 was played. Knight e7. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so rook c1, but now c5. It feels like Hikaru is seeing a few too many liberties in the opening. Because after this trade, maybe c4 and bishop f5 could be annoying. It feels like black should have some nice activity, and c5 by Fabiano is on the board. If you can, okay, so he takes. Okay, now you kind of should castle, I think. Castles looks very natural, and it's on the board. So c4 is a move, and bishop f5, so knight g6. Rook d1 looks natural, just bring the rook into the game. And we have an interesting position where black has the hanging pawns, which gives him some activity, but of course these pawns can also be a little weak. So rook d1 by Hikaru, he wants to move the bishop out of the way and put pressure on the pawn on d5. Rook c8. Alright, so let's see, knight e2. Wants to put the bishop on c3, hitting this knight. And if the knight comes to e4, maybe knight g3. Generally speaking here, piece trades would be good for Hikaru because the pawns only become weaker and weaker. And he's also up half a minute on the clock. So queen e6 by Fabiano. Let's see what Hikaru is going to do here. Bishop c3 will run into d4 because it takes your knight on e2 is hanging. Alright, knight g3, logical move. Let's go bishop c3 and make sure that the knight cannot hop to the e4 square. So let's see what Fabiano is going to do. Hikaru is always keeping the time advantage, knight e4 on the board. Okay, so if you take, I guess he wants to take with the pawn. Try bishop c3 was played. Maybe he wants to take and go knight to d2. And he's also making sure that after this trade, the knight cannot hop to the e5 square. So trade. Feels like Fabiano should still be doing well, but Hikaru does keep that time advantage. Rook e8. He's defending these pawns over here nicely. Queen a5, maybe just queen b6. The queen trade should be completely fine for black, so Hikaru goes queen to d2. h6, making sure the king always has a square over here. I don't know, I feel like Fabiano should be doing fine here. Rook c2, perhaps he's trying to double. Bishop c7, maybe bring this bishop out to the f6 square. Alright, queen c1. Bishop f6. You can go b4, but black will go c4, so knight h5. Bishop e7. Let's see what Hikaru will try here. I mean, a move like h3 always makes it... Okay, so he goes for it. He goes b4. So now c4 by Fabiano. It is a protected passer, but the pawn on d5 can also become weak. Queen e6 by Fabiano. Okay. So let's see what Hikaru is going to do here. Queen c3 is threatening checkmate, so bishop f8. It's probably got to be played. And I'm starting to like Hikaru's position. Alright, rook d4. At some point, I would like this. I would recommend the move h3. Make sure you never get back rank checkmated. But yeah, rook d4 on the board. Let's see what Fabiano is going to do. Fabiano might be looking at the move a5 to try to break up this pawn structure on the queen side. Queen f5, knight g3. Knight g3 looks like the only logical move. And the queen probably just has to go back. Okay, queen f6. You cannot take as that hangs your queen. e4 could be moved at some point to break up the pawns. Because queen c2 instead. Alright, so Hikaru's still up like 40 seconds. Queen e6. e4 is definitely a move and he goes for it. Alright, maybe knight f4. Yeah, to defend this pawn over here. And I mean, if white takes and takes, it feels like black should have some sort of tactic, but maybe knight e3. So let's see what Hikaru is going to do in this position. I mean, once again, this is a must-win game. He's up 30 seconds on the clock. What is he going to come up with here? Alright. Hikaru taking his time here. Still up. He's up 10 seconds. He was up more time. Okay, so queen d2, but this does allow knight to d3. It feels like Fabi might be taking over here. I mean, queen a6 could be a move hitting this pawn over here. Queen c3. Maybe just takes. I don't know. Take this. Knight on d3 is always going to be super annoying. Queen b6 hitting the pawn on f2. Rook f1 for that reason. Played by Hikaru. Alright, how can Fabiano try to increase the pressure here? I think if he wins this game, he's looking really good to win this title Tuesday. Okay, queen c6 hitting the... Okay, he's not hitting the rook, he's defending this pawn. Rook g4. Maybe Hikaru's trying to cook up some tricks with knight coming to h5. Alright, well, let's see what Fabiano's going to do. Maybe g6. Yeah, g6. Nice move. Preparing bishop g7. And it feels like Hikaru doesn't really have any tricks here. Let's see what he's going to do. I mean, if bishop g7 comes, black king is perfectly safe. This pawn is going to be super strong. Knight h5, threatening knight f6, rook to d6 by Fabiano, stopping the knight jump. Okay, knight at d2. Okay, he wants knight e4, hitting this rook, and really start jumping with the knights. This is going to get super tricky. And 38 seconds for Fabiano. What move is he going to come up with? Maybe... I mean, rook e8 hangs this. Also, keep in mind, white is hitting the pawn on c4. All of a sudden, everything is starting to look super, super tricky. Let's see what Fabiano is going to come up with. 25 seconds. 20 seconds. You got... Okay, queen d7 hitting... But knight e4. Okay, if you take the rook, knight f6, you lose the game. Wait, what does black even play here? Knight f6 is a huge threat. They would just win the queen pretty much. So, rook c6 by Fabiano. But now he's losing the exchange. Hikaru, okay, he takes on d6. Recaptured by Fabiano. You cannot take as that hangs your knight. Still some problems for Hikaru. He has 40. Okay, h3. Nice move defending the rook. Maybe wants to take here with the queen. And, or actually, knight f6, queen e6 by Fabiano. Maybe bring the knight back. Knight f4, good move. Take bishop g7 maybe. Queen f5. Still game. Knight, okay, takes on d3. But now this pass over here is going to be quite strong. h5. King h7, bishop h6 maybe. Gotta go for it. King h7. 3 seconds. Rook f3. Rook e1 maybe. Rook d1. And yeah, this is going to be for Hikaru. The pawn on d3 is lost. And with that, that should be the game. Rook e3. And yes, Hikaru does beat Fabiano. So he does tie up the standings. So Hikaru moves to 7 out of 7. Fabiano loses this game. It was a very up and down game. Could have really gone either way. But let's have a look at what is happening on the other boards. So we see Dubov crushing here with the 2 pawns. Just marching down the board. So Dubov is going to move to 7 out of 8 as well. And he's going to tie the lead. Alright. Let's see what other games we have. We have Bordnik, who's on 5 points. So this game is not going to be super relevant for the standings. Because it is unlikely that 9 out of 11 is going to win the tournament. But let's see what is going to happen here. But yeah, as we speak, we can have a very quick look at the standings. So we see that now in the lead are Fabiano Caruana, Daniel Dubov, Korchmar, and Hikaru. Hikaru is still having the worst tiebreak out of all of them. So he probably has to win the tournament outright. But yeah, it's still because of that good tiebreak. And Dubov also having a great event. Let's see, are there still any games in progress? Yeah, still a couple games. This one is a draw, but you can move the rook. And black will have to promote to a knight. Does he know how to do it? Does he know how to do it? He doesn't know. You have to hold Alt. You have to hold Alt. Hold Alt and then promote. He was probably like, no. He was like, no, I don't want a queen here. Satch. Okay, this one is going to be a draw. And this one is going to be a win for black. Takes rook c2. Rook c2. So, yeah, that is going to wrap up round number 8. Is this game still going on? No, it's a draw. So, yeah, you guys. So, with all that being said and done, you guys, that wraps up round number 8. We are going to be taking a very short break, but do not go anywhere. More action will be coming your way from the late edition from the Title Tuesday. We'll see you guys very soon. Alright, everyone, and welcome back to the late edition of this week's Title Tuesday. 8 games are already in the books, and we are gonna be starting very soon with round number 9. So, Fabiano Caruana is still in the lead. So let's have a look at his game against Danya Dubov. So it starts off as a Slav defense. We have the trade here on g6. So white has the bishop pair, but black is extremely solid here in the center with most like a6. Maybe he wants to go for b5 at some point, although that could also weaken the black position. So once again, white should have a slight advantage, but it is difficult to make real progress here. Maybe Fabiano wants to go queen c2 and e4, or bishop f3 and e4. I guess that is what he is looking at. So let's see what Dubov will do in the meantime. Bishop d6. So if e4 was played, there was a little tactic. So queen e7. I guess he wants to go bishop a3, because if he manages to trade those bishops, then, you know, black shouldn't have too much to worry about, which is rook c2 was played. Bishop a3 can be met with bishop a1. So Dubov just bringing more pieces to the center. Queen e2. I don't know if e5 could ever be a move. Feels like white should be better, but bishop g2 by Fabiano. And okay, here we have it. Bishop a3, bishop a1. I would say here the most difficult thing for black is to come up with a plan. Like white can slowly but surely improve the position, most like queen e2, rook d1, eventually e4. But what is black gonna do, right? So we see him just shuffling back and forth, queen e2 by Fabiano. And I guess that eventually he is gonna go for the move e4, g5 by Dubov, knight f8. Alright, so let's see, is he gonna go e4 here? Yeah, and there we have it on the board. Okay, so here we see a lot of trades, take with the bishop. So let's see what Dubov is gonna do. Okay, knight to d7. Alright, white would somehow like to make the move d5 work, but it's never that easy. Bishop g2 back, okay, knight f6. Alright, maybe... Okay, h3. Okay, he's making sure that g4 can never be played, and he always has a square here for the king. So rook to d7 by Dubov. Dubov's just waiting around. Queen e3, hitting the pawn over here. I wonder if g4 maybe wants to go h4. Lots of possibilities in this position, and also Fabiano is up half a minute on the clock, so it's looking pretty good for him, I would say so far. But yeah, let's see what Dubov is gonna come up with. Fabiano, okay, so goes g4, h4, rook to d8, rook d2 by Fabiano. So both sides are just slowly but surely improving their pieces. Maybe white wants to go d5 at some point. And I don't know, I feel like white should be better. And more than anything, it's really difficult still for black to come up with a plan. So he goes bishop b4, hitting the rook. Rook to d3 and bishop a5. So I guess he wants to go bishop b6, hitting this pawn over here. Queen g5. Aha, that's a very nice move. He's hitting the bishop over here. Can he go d5 now? I guess black might still be fine. I don't know, looks very tempting. Another idea would be to go bishop f1, e2, and eat this pawn on g4, because it's completely cut off from the chain. So let's see what Fabiano will go for. Both options look quite tempting. So let's see what he's gonna do. Alright, and he goes for h5. Okay, so maybe what he wants to go for is go h6, g6, and then d5. Or combine that somehow, you know, like go d5, take, and then h6. Either way, it feels like Dubov should be under some pressure here. Maybe e5 can be played, because if you take... Although, I mean, white takes here, there might still be like queen f8. All looks very, very tough, but maybe Dubov, it's still fine for him. Let's see what move he's going to come with. He's down in 1 minute. Fabiano still's 1:50 on the clock. Okay, so goes to e5. Okay, now the big question is, can Fabiano take? Aha, wait. I guess if white takes, black might have this. And if king takes knight e4, although you do lose a lot of pieces in the process, that might still be good for white. If you take on d3, okay, we're gonna recapture. Take ef. Very difficult to figure out what exactly is going on there. Bishop f2, I think you can take, because there's no check. Rook e1 has been played by Fabiano instead. So bishop takes d4 now, maybe? I mean, take, rook e5. I guess maybe just sack the queen and take on d3. 45 seconds for double. I guess you have to take, because otherwise your position just looks terrible. And he does take the pawn indeed. Alright, so now this could get out of control for Fabiano. I mean, if you take an okay, so he takes there and maybe now takes an e5. He's still up on the clock though. So let's see, the queen is under attack. So Dubov is going to do. He could throw in this check, but then king h2. So goes queen d8 right away. Maybe bishop f1. Making sure there's not a check. And the king can go to g2, where it will sit pretty safe. And black's king, I mean, if this check will ever come on the board, black might be having some trouble. So let's see what is going to happen. But yeah. Alright. Okay, so Fabiano also getting down on the clock. He has 40 seconds still. Rook to e3, but check now maybe? I don't know, it feels like this move doesn't do too much. Maybe he wants to go queen e5 at some point. King h2. Rook d2 looks quite annoying now, hitting the pawn on f2 and a pawn on a2. I wonder what Fabiano has in mind here. Maybe queen f5, take and rook d3. Try to create some tricks. But it feels like you cannot lose the pawn on f2, because then also your king will get under fire. So 30 seconds. Piece. How is he? h6. Okay, g6 now. g6, and I feel like if anything, this solves black's problems. Queen f4. Okay, king will sit pretty safe here. But of course, this knight will always need attention. Let's see, knight h5 on the board. Okay, so you could trade the rooks, but still, this pawn on h6 is going to be so weak that you're probably just going to lose that pawn. Rook e8 on the board. Take, king h7. b4, queen e7. Okay, maybe he wants to go b5 at some point. Alright, so knight f6, b5, b5, open up the scope for the bishop. Yeah, I guess you just take everything and go b6, which probably, we could take b6 maybe. But still, after like queen d4, knight g8, does Fabiano have anything here? I mean, if you lose the pawn on b7, that's going to be super dangerous. b6 on the board, take the pawn maybe, or queen e5 could be a move. And if this pawn on b7 drops, white is going to be super fast. Queen b4. Wait, what? 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 That's a free queen. What? 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 What was that? He hung his queen, but the other guy didn't see it. Okay, b7. b7, it's game over. Bishop, block, and queen. What? What? What was that? And white was like, no, I don't want a queen. Anyway, Fabiano does win his game, which moves him to 8 out of 9. And Hikaru also won his game, so both of them will be going in the lead going into the final 2 rounds. We see that Rasmus Svane and Arjan Tari are only half point behind. And here we have Draken, who is not going to win this game unless a miracle happens. But yeah, this is just an easy theoretical draw. You keep your rook on the f-file, so white cannot even check. This game is just completely stuck here in the corner. I mean, this game is going to end in a draw. Fun fact, by the way, fun fact. I had a game here once in this position, and my opponent played the move king g8. And this is the last trick in the position. Like, king g8 looks like a good move. You're like, okay, I'm going to move my king into the corner. But then there's rook g7. And either you're going to lose the rook, or you're going to have to trade and you're lost. So that's how I won. What? 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 Wait. I was like, okay, this game is going to end in a draw. There's this one last trick. But, oh. You don't check here. Yeah, just king g8. Just king g8. Bring the king into the corner. Because after check this, you cannot get your rook behind. You played rook f1, but now check. Your king has to move in h7, h8, and white just wins the game. So Draken moves to 7 out of 9. It's probably not going to be enough to win the tournament. But with that being said and done, round number 9 is in the books, and round number 10 is underway, and we have. I'll leave it up to you guys. Tari against Hikaru, or you know what? We'll try to just follow both games. So we have that game, but we also have this game between Fabiano Caruana and Rasmus Svane. So once again, Fabiano and Hikaru are in the lead. Here we see white having a big pawn center. Knight h3, interesting move. Knight e8 by Rasmus. Maybe bishop e3. Because this pawn now is under attack. Yeah, and I kind of like white's position, because white is just going to roll on the king side with f4 sooner or later. Sometimes you just sack this pawn, or you defend it with queen e2, also possible. Let's see what Fabian is going to do. I feel like you cannot really sack. Okay, so it goes d5, knight d6 now makes sense. Adding another attacker to the pawn on c4. Let's see whether he's going to go for that. But as we speak, let's check in Hikaru's game. That's pretty boring. a6 is Tari. Bishop has to move in d5. Okay, d5, or is it knight b4 first? But this isn't too scary. I think it might be knight b4 first for some reason. I don't know. d5 on the board. Knight b4. If bishop f1, bishop f5, black should be doing completely fine. So maybe Ariana's just going to give up this bishop, but either way, looking pretty dry. Bishop f5, rook e2. Hikaru should be doing fine here. But we are going to be switching back to the Fabiano game. And look at this. Fabiano is launching a big attack here on the king's side. He sacrifices pawn on c4. This queen is going to have to move. But it's going to be super scary, because if you go queen c7, then queen e4. Threat checkmate over here. You have to go g6. But then bishop f6, queen h4, knight g5. Oh! There could be a really nice line. Let me show you guys real quick. If here, queen e4, queen e4. Oh my god, are we going to see it? g6. g6, bishop f6, and let's say bishop f6, and let's say you take here, queen h4, h5, knight g5, knight e5, queen h5. Take bishop h7, checkmate. Is that gonna happen? I mean, I think Rasmus is just getting checkmated here. That's a really nice pattern. There's nothing black can do. Also queen f4. Also queen f4 to h6 is just crushing. Yeah, Fabiano is going to win this game. Fabiano is going to win this game. We'll hang around for a little bit. Let's have a quick look at what's happening in Hikaru's game. Looking a little bit better for Hikaru, if anything. Maybe bishop h5 and bishop f6. We'll check back in later. But let's see. Yeah, Fabiano is just crushing right now. I mean, this is just going to be checkmate. Like queen f4 to h6. I don't see what black can do here. Yeah, you take here. Maybe queen f4 is actually the easiest. But I really like this line. Oh, I'm playing guess the move apparently. No. How do I do this? Okay, well. Okay, if here queen h4, h5, knight g5, and then you have this. But queen f4 might be even better. Followed by queen h6. Because I don't see what black can do. I just don't see it. I think Fabiano's just crushing here. Rasmus down to 30 seconds on the clock. This is just going to be checkmate. I mean, queen f4 to h6. There's just nothing black can do. There's nothing black can do. Just over. So, yeah, this simply is going to be a crushing win for Fabiano. 12 seconds. Knight d6. Aha. So if queen f4 takes here, knight f5. Still hanging on. But, I mean, if you take here and take here, that's two full pieces. Takes on d6. Takes back. I mean, anything here. Anything should be... Oh, queen h4. Go queen h4. Please. No. There was a really nice line. Like, queen h4. Then the same idea was still in the position. Like, h5 take and here. But as it's... Right now it's up two pieces. Queen h4... Okay, right now it's just cashing in a lot of material. Also good strategy. And yeah. So yeah, a crushing win for Fabiano Caruana, who moves to 9 out of 10. Let's see whether Hikaru can keep up with him. So here we see the updated standings. Yeah, Aryan Tari, it's gonna be difficult for... Oh no, wait, Aryan Tari is still, you know, in it, but Rasmus Fane, it's gonna be difficult for him. But this is just equal. I mean, if anyone is better, it might be white. Might be white. Aryan also up a little bit of time on the clock. Rook d8, bishop b3, I would think. Bishop b3 on the board. It's probably just gonna be a draw. Can Hikaru cook up some magic here? He needs to win to be able to keep up with Fabiano. Knight to c6, where's Aryan gonna go with the rook? You can literally put the rook anywhere, I would think. And it should be a draw, but let's see what he's gonna do. I mean, take, rook c4. Maybe rook d3 to b3 makes sense. Rook d5. 6 king f7 eventually. I mean, white has some weaknesses over here. b4 on the board, h6. Rook to b1, he wants to get in the move b5. Rook d8, but okay, b5 is gonna come. Knight e5 hitting the rook, but this does allow rook c7. b5, maybe a5. Rook c5 on the board by Aryan. Rook 88, yeah. b5, I guess. He takes on d5. b5 now, okay. But his pawn on b5 is weak. Knight c4, nice move by Hikaru, hitting the bishop. The bishop doesn't have a good square. Bishop f4, knight a3, and all of a sudden you're losing this pawn on b5. Hikaru now has a good chance to win this game. Knight e3, hitting the rook and hitting the pawn on b5. Is he going to catch up with Fabiano? Where is his rook going to go? Maybe rook e1 to try to create some counterplay, but I think black should be fine. Rook a1, knight takes b5, check, king up, rook b8, rook d7, bishop b3, knight c3. The knight is coming back to the d5 square. You got to keep this bishop on the board, I think. Bishop d2, maybe king up. But this is not a pleasant endgame to defend. Bishop e3, knight c6. Okay, don't repeat too many times. King f5. Maybe. Okay, takes knight e7, f6. Nice move by Aryan. And he's trading off some pawns, which is generally what you want to do if you're down a pawn. Okay, so maybe king up now. h5 by Hikaru. King f3. It feels like white has pretty good chance of drawing this, because all of black's pawns are kind of split. Okay, knight f4. Take rook d3. Rook d3 is actually checkmate. He's turning checkmate on one. Bishop c1. Oh, check, and trade and take. No, Hikaru's gonna win. Hikaru is gonna win. He's gonna move to 9 out of 10 as well. And Aryan flags. So yeah, Hikaru, it was looking tough, but he picks up the win, moves to 9 out of 10. So it's gonna make up for a very exciting last round. Alright, let's see what games we still have. We have Kamsky against Andrekin. Now, people might say like, okay, this is an opposite color. Bishop endgame, just a draw. But it's actually quite tricky, because black can try to pick up this pawn eventually. Although I would think if you take here, then white does this and your king is trapped. So king back. Okay, you just sit with that. King d1 only move. Okay, take, king c2 is a draw, because your king is completely trapped. King back, okay. I kind of like what he was doing earlier, with the king coming around to the king side. Okay, check, maybe. Bishop back. It should be a draw, but still, of course, a little tricky. And white not having a lot of time on the clock. Can Andrekin squeeze out a win here? King e4. King f4. Okay, starting to get tricky. King f3. Wait, I think this pawn is lost. King g3. Wait. Bishop f. He had a win there. But now it might still be bishop f5. Yeah. Very tricky endgame. It should be a draw, but b3. Oh, king b4, it's over. King b1, king takes b3. And Andrekin wins the game. So Andrekin moves to 8 out of 10. Still has an outside chance for, you know, a prize. But let's see what games are still going on. So if this game over here where white is probably winning. Alright, but yeah, we see here the updated settings. So we have Fabiano Caruana and Hikaru going into the lead into the final round. Fabiano has the better tiebreaker. So if he wins the final game, he wins the tournament. But if he does not, then Hikaru has a chance to catch up. Then we have 4 players on 8 out of 10. Dubov, Jeffrey Zhang, and Draken, and Zhigalko. So they're in the hunt as well. All right, and we are off. So we have Fabiano Caruana with the black pieces against Jeffrey Zhang. Not an easy pairing. And then we have Hikaru with the white pieces against Drake. And Hikaru knows he has to win this game and hope that Fabiano does not. So Hikaru playing his usual stuff with Bishop to b2. This is going to be a very fighting game for sure. Both sides will have their chances. Okay, let's check in the Fabiano game. So here we have this line where I went for a quick c3 and d4 in the center. Alright, so let's see what Jeffrey is going to do here. Knight c3, bishop g4, or bishop e6 is a move as well. Bishop e3 defending the center. Maybe f6 here to put pressure on these pawns. And f6 on the board by Fabiano. Okay, knight a4 by Jeffrey. Let's see what Fabiano is going to do here. But either way, Danya versus Gotham. That is good content. That is good content. That is the definition of good content. Okay, but as we speak, this is looking tough for Fabiano because white has the two bishops. He also has a kingside majority. I would think white should be better here, but of course black has a queenside slash center majority. So let's see what he's gonna do here. Bishop d3, putting pressure on the knight. Alright, so d4 takes. Alright, Fabiano thing in a current position. Let's check back in the Hikaru game. It's starting to look good for Hikaru. So if Hikaru wins this game, he might just win the tournament. Take bishop f7 is not what you want to do. He takes there first. Maybe g5, hit the knight, and then take here. Looks really good for white. He goes g5. Where's the knight going to go? I mean, knight h5, I guess you take, and then go queen g4. It's looking really good for Hikaru. I mean, he's going to win a pawn here, probably, and with a crushing attack. Like, taking e6, bishop f7, queen g4. Queen g4, you threaten g6, which wins the game. I mean, d5 is weak. The rook is coming in the e1. It's looking really good for Hikaru here, I would say. So, can Fabiano keep up? It's the big question. He's down a minute on the clock here, so Hikaru must be pretty happy looking at that game. And queen c2 could be a move putting pressure on the knight. And on this pawn on h7 over here. Tough, very tough game for Fabiano. Let's see what he is going to do. Right, queen e7 on the board. Maybe queen c2 now putting pressure on this knight over here. I mean, f3, there's still knight g5. But Fabiano also down a minute on the clock, so it's not going to be easy for him to win here. Queen c1, that is a weird choice, I would say. I mean, I guess he wants to go f3, make sure that black does not have here, but it does give black the time to do something. But let's see what that is going to be. h6 by Fabiano, he does want to go knight to g5. f3, knight g5, f4 could be an option, but then the knight does jump back. Alright, let's see. Hikaru is still in a good position. Up 30 seconds here. Just play rook e2, hitting the queen, queen d6. Maybe knight f3 to e5, put pressure on his bishop. Rook to e8. Okay, trade. He could trade the queens, but then black has some chance to draw. Okay, he goes for it. Okay, so he feels very confident that he's winning this endgame. It looks really good. I mean, d4 is probably a mistake due to knight e5. Hitting this pawn, then if b6, bishop b4. White should probably be winning. Maybe you bring the king up. And Draken down to a minute. I feel like Hikaru should be able to win this game, but it's not that easy because his extra pawn are these double pawns over here. d4 is a move, but bring the king up as well. But let's see. It's looking good for Hikaru. Maybe a draw. Maybe a draw would be good enough as well if Fabiano loses. Or, let's say Fabiano and Hikaru lose, then maybe Dubov could win. I mean, I don't know. Let's check back into the Fabiano game. It's looking tough. He has lost a pawn here. White can take here. Take an e6 and like queen e4. And that should be a clean extra pawn. White takes on e6 first and goes queen d1. Okay. Now you cannot take to the f4 and you lose. He takes on a2, but now, I mean, take the 9 and take on d4. And that's a very clean extra pawn. I mean, it feels like it's almost 2 pawns. But black has these double pawns over here. But it feels like Jeffrey should be winning this game. At least he should not lose. Okay, queen e6 by Fabiano, rook e1, good move. Everything is weak in Fabiano's position. I mean, maybe h3, nice move. Fixing the pawns over here. Queen d3, picking up another pawn. Yep, he takes it. You could pick up another pawn. I mean, it feels like black doesn't have any tricks. Of course, you do have to be careful. But I don't think there's any way for Fabiano to put pressure on the second rank. Queen c4. Alright, so once you go queen d4 and queen f2, you do have to be careful. Maybe check and then push, because then there's no check on d4. Alright, queen e4, queen b3. Oh, you have e6. Take, and e7. That wins. e6. e6 on the board. Okay, take. Take and e7. That's game. Pause, champ. Pause, champ. It's too easy. Pause, champ. Is he going to find it? Queen takes c2. Queen takes c2. Does he find a move? And he does. Takes and e7. And that's just game over. Like, check. It's just one check. Checking each one. And Jeffrey wins. So it's not going to be Fabiano Caruana. Is Hikaru going to win this endgame? If Hikaru wins or draws, he wins the tournament. So he could also just offer a draw here. Now that he took king d5. Knight b1. Okay, he's going to pick up maybe king f4 and then take here. Knight takes c3. There, knight c2. But of course, he runs zero risk here. King c6, king f4. King f4 looks really good. And just pushing up the board. I think Hikaru is simply going to win this game. Knight e3 looks really good. King e5. a3 also good. And this d-pawn is sooner or later going to march down the board. d5, here it comes. King c5, king e5. And I don't see how you're going to stop. Oh, that's a free free bishop. Okay, d7. And that's game over. Because this king is not going anywhere. And, I mean, anything. Take. Knight d6. Take. I mean, they're playing the final moves, but Hikaru is going to be winning this game unless he disconnects. You can just pre-move king back, king back, king back. And there we go. So, Hikaru wins the late edition of Title Tuesday with 10 out of 11. He had a bit of a rough start. He lost game number 4 or 5, but in the end, he wins it all. In second place... Okay, we're waiting still for the final. We're still waiting for the final standings. But an amazing comeback by Hikaru. He won many games on demand. And a tough finish for Fabiano. He was leading for the entire tournament, but that last round loss against Jeffrey threw him back in the standings. But let's see what games we still have. Okay, so we have Arana, who's trying to squeeze out a win here. He probably will. I mean, he can take on g2. He should be winning this one. He is playing against Quesada. Okay, this should be a win. Okay, f3 now. Okay, black is still winning, but he could have just pushed this pawn down. Okay, rook e5. Okay. Check now. Okay, black should be winning here. Rook g3. Rook g3 is game over. Yeah, and you just collect this pawn. So Arana wins his game. He moves to 8.5 out of 11. He had a pretty good tournament. We'll see where he ends up in the standings. Let's see what games we still have. We have Dennis Wagner, who is going to beat Bryakvin. So yeah, you go king up, and there's queen b7, checkmate. So Dennis Wagner finishes on 7 out of 11. And that does wrap up the late edition of Title Tuesday. Now, Danny Range did a bit of overruling, and as it turned out, Daniel Dubov wins the late edition. Fabiano Caruana comes in second, and Vasily Korchmar comes in third. We're sorry to Hikaru, he did not win in the end. No, yeah. Just kidding, you guys. The final standings are in. Hikaru Nakamura wins the late edition of Title Tuesday. In second place comes Fabiano Caruana. In third place, Danya Dubov. And in 4th place is Jeffrey Zhang, all with 9 out of 11. Then in 5th place we have Aryan Tari with 8.5. So I think he still gets a prize. I don't know who the best streamer is in this event. It is probably gonna be maybe Zhigalko or Bordnik. But yeah, big congratulations to Hikaru Nakamura. He mounted an incredible comeback to still win the late edition of Title Tuesday with 10 points out of 11 games. A very impressive score, of course. I don't know why the standings are messed up, but yeah, it happens. Settings were messed up for some reason. And thank you guys. So yeah, guys, that was the late edition of the Title Tuesday. So we are going to be wrapping up shortly. I hope you enjoyed the coverage. If you did, make sure to drop me a follow on twitch.tv/GMBenjaminBach. It'd be very much appreciated. Make sure to stick around. And yeah, of course, there are going to be many more tournaments coming up here on chess.com. Tomorrow we have Arena Kings. Maybe I'll be playing in that as well. And once again, of course, big congratulations to Hikaru Nakamura. A score of 10 out of 11 is nothing to sniff at. But that's it, you guys. Once again, thank you everyone for watching on Twitch, on YouTube, or any other platform. I hope you enjoyed the coverage. And we look forward to seeing you all in all the next events that are coming up here in chess.com. Have a good one.